Marcus Thorne, the senior regional manager, stood with his polished Italian leather shoes inches away from a gray bucket of sudsy water. He looked down at the man on his knees. The man wore a faded blue jumpsuit with the name Elias stitched over the heart. He was scrubbing a scuff mark on the floor, his hands wrinkled from the chemicals, his back bent like a question mark. Now, before I tell you the legendary payback that is about to unfold in this building, check that subscribe button. If you believe that no human being is beneath another, and you love stories where the arrogant are brought to their knees by the very people they stepped on, hit that notification bell right now. This story is a lesson in power, humility, and the truth that your value is never determined by the clothes you wear. Stay with me because the reveal in the boardroom is going to be something you'll never forget. You missed a spot, old man, Marcus sneered. He didn't just say it. He spat the words. Then with a slow, deliberate movement, Marcus tilted his cardboard cup of hot, sticky latte. The brown liquid splashed across the pristine marble, splattering onto the janitor's worn sneakers. The entire lobby went silent. The receptionist stopped typing. The security guards looked away. Everyone knew Marcus. He was a rising star. He was the man who brought in $20 million in revenue last quarter. And everyone knew Elias. He was an invisible man. The man who emptied the trash. The man who was less than human in the eyes of the corporate giants. Elias didn't flinch. He didn't shout. He slowly looked up, his eyes steady, a strange, piercing calm in his gaze that didn't belong to a man who cleaned toilets for a living. "I'll clean it up, Mr. Thorne," Elias said quietly. His voice was deep, resonant, and completely devoid of fear. "You're damn right you will," Marcus laughed, looking around at his subordinates for approval. "And when you're done, go up to my office. I dropped a sandwich on the rug. I want you on your hands and knees until that carpet looks like it was never touched. You people, you're like cockroaches. You take up space in my building and think you're worth a paycheck." Marcus reached into his pocket, pulled out a crisp $20 bill and threw it into the dirty mop bucket. "There's a tip. Buy yourself some dignity. Or maybe a new pair of shoes that don't smell like poverty." Marcus turned his back and walked toward the private elevators, his laughter echoing. He had no idea that the man he had just humiliated didn't need $20. He didn't even need the job. What Marcus didn't know was that he had just signed his own professional death warrant. Because the man in the blue jumpsuit didn't just work for Okani Global. He owned it. To understand why a man worth $5 billion was scrubbing floors on a Tuesday morning, you have to understand the legacy of Chima Okani. Chima was 38 years old, but he carried the wisdom of 3 generations. His father, Gabriel Okani, had come to America from a small village in Enugu, Nigeria, with nothing but a secondary school education and a heart full of steel. Gabriel's first job in America wasn't in tech or finance. He was a janitor at a hospital. He worked 16-hour days scrubbing floors until his knees bled, all so he could send Chima to the best schools. Gabriel used to tell his son, "Chima, look at the floor. If the floor is clean, the doctor can perform surgery. If the doctor can perform surgery, a life is saved. Never look down on the man with the broom because without him the whole world stops spinning." Those words were the foundation of Okani Global. When Gabriel eventually saved enough to start a small logistics company, he built it on respect. By the time Chima took over, it was a multi-billion-dollar empire. But lately Chima felt the foundation cracking. He sat in his penthouse in Buckhead, surrounded by original African art and windows that overlooked the city he helped build. His net worth was north of $5 billion. He owned private jets, a fleet of luxury cars he rarely drove, and a name that made politicians sit up straight. But the reports coming from his HR department were troubling. Turnover was at an all-time high. The lower-level employees, the drivers, the warehouse workers, the janitors, were leaving in droves. There were whispers of a toxic culture on the middle floors. Specifically on the floors managed by the high-flyers like Marcus Thorne. Chima looked at a photo of his father standing proudly in his old janitor uniform. "They've forgotten Papa," Chima whispered. "They think the money makes them kings." Chima called his most trusted advisor, a woman named Sarah who had been with the family for 20 years. "Sarah, I'm going away for 30 days, Chima said. "A vacation, sir? You haven't taken one in 5 years, she replied. "No, not a vacation. I'm going to work. But not in this office. I need you to contact the cleaning contractor we use for the main headquarters. Tell them you have a nephew named Elias who needs a job. Tell them he's a bit slow, doesn't talk much and needs the night shift. And Sarah, if a single person in this building finds out who Elias really is, you're fired." Sarah stared at him. "Sir, you want to clean your own toilets?" "I want to see who my managers are when they think I'm not looking," Chima said, his jaw tightening. "I want to see if the heart of my father still beats in this company, or if I've built a monster." The transformation was thorough. Chima stopped shaving. He let his beard grow out, graying and unkempt. He stopped the expensive skin treatments and let the Atlanta sun roughen his face. He traded his $3,000 custom-tailored Tom Ford suits for a pair of thrift store jeans and a faded flannel shirt. He moved out of his penthouse for a month and rented a small one-bedroom apartment in a forgotten corner of the city. He drove a 20-year-old Toyota Camry with a dent in the door and a radio that only played static. On his first day as Elias, he arrived at the back entrance of Okani Global at 5 a.m. The head of the cleaning crew was a man named Silas. Silas was 60 with hands like leather and a permanent limp from a lifetime of hard labor. He looked Elias up and down. "You the new guy? Sarah's nephew?" Silas asked, biting into a piece of cold toast. "Yes, sir," Chima said, keeping his eyes down, his voice slightly muffled. "Don't sir me, kid. We're at the bottom of the food chain here. You see those elevators? Those are for the gods. The people in the suits. To them, we're just part of the furniture. If they talk to you, don't talk back unless they ask a question. If they step in your way, you move. And whatever you do, stay out of Marcus Thorne's way. He's the senior manager on the 45th floor. He likes to remind people like us that we're replaceable." Chima nodded. "I understand. Here's your locker. Here's your mop. We start in the lobby and work our way up. Every smudge is a sin, Elias. This building is a temple. Keep it holy." For the first week, Chima, now Elias, felt the weight of his father's life. His back ached. His hands were constantly dry from the bleach. But more than the physical pain, it was the psychological weight of being invisible. He would hold the elevator door for executives who wouldn't even nod in his direction. He would clean up spilled coffee while managers talked over his head about multi-million-dollar deals as if he were a ghost. But there was one person who was different. Her name tag said, Amara. She was a junior accountant, barely 24, always carrying a mountain of files and wearing shoes that looked like they had been repaired more than once. On the third day, Elias was cleaning a window near her desk when she tripped, sending her files flying across the floor. Marcus Thorne happened to be walking by with two other directors. He stepped on one of the files, leaving a dirty footprint on a spreadsheet. "Watch where you're going, Amara," Marcus barked. "If you're as clumsy with the numbers as you are with your feet, you won't be here next month." Amara's face turned bright red. She scrambled to pick up the papers. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Thorne. It won't happen again." Marcus didn't help. He didn't even pause. He just kept walking, complaining about the quality of help these days. Elias dropped his cloth and knelt beside her. He began gathering the papers with a speed and organization that didn't match a slow janitor. "Here," Elias said softly, handing her the stack. "The numbers on page 4 are excellent, by the way. Your analysis of the logistics overhead was very insightful." Amara froze. She looked at the man in the blue jumpsuit. She looked at his rough hands and then at his eyes. For a second she saw something there, a spark of immense intelligence, of authority. You read my report?" she whispered. Elias blinked, realizing he had stepped out of character. I just saw the charts while I was cleaning. I like math." Amara smiled, a genuine, tired smile. "Thank you, Elias. Most people here don't even see my face, let alone my reports." "I'm Amara." "Elias," he replied. "Well, Elias, if you like math, you're in the wrong job," she joked, though her eyes were sad. "But at least you're kind. That's a rare currency in this building." From that moment, Chima knew he had found one real person. But his focus remained on Marcus Thorne. He needed to see how deep the rot went. As the second week began, Marcus Thorne's behavior became more erratic. He was under pressure to close a deal with a massive international firm, a deal that would secure his promotion to vice president. He took his stress out on everyone beneath him, but Elias became his favorite target. Marcus seemed to take personal offense at Elias's quietness. He hated that Elias didn't cower. Every time Marcus insulted him, Elias would simply look him in the eye and say, "Yes, Mr. Thorne." One evening around 6 p.m., the office was mostly empty except for Marcus and a few stay-late employees. Elias was buffing the floor in the hallway outside the executive suite. Marcus walked out of his office, red-faced and sweating. He was on his cell phone, screaming at someone. "I don't care about the regulations. Find a way to bypass the audit. Chima Okani isn't in the office this month, he'll never know. Just get the signature." Marcus hung up and saw Elias. He felt a surge of adrenaline, the need to exert power. "You!" Marcus shouted. Elias stopped the machine. "Yes, Mr. Thorne? I'm hungry. The cafeteria is closed. Go down the street to the deli and get me a pastrami on rye. And don't take the company car walk. It's raining? Good. Maybe the rain will wash the smell of garbage off you. Mr. Thorne, my job is to clean the floors." "I'm not a courier," Elias said calmly. The air in the hallway seemed to turn cold. A few employees at their desks looked up, gasping. Nobody told Marcus no. Marcus walked over, his face inches from Elias's. "What did you say to me, you piece of trash?" "I said I have a schedule to keep. Silas expects this floor to be finished by 7 o'clock, Elias replied, his voice like silk. Marcus grabbed the front of Elias's jumpsuit. "Listen to me, you old failure. I am the reason this building exists. I am the reason you have a paycheck to buy your cheap beer and your lottery tickets. You are nothing. You are a shadow. If I tell you to bark, you bark. If I tell you to run into traffic, you ask which lane." Marcus let go and pushed Elias back. He then did something truly monstrous. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a gold-plated fountain pen, a gift the company gave to managers for 5 years of service, and dropped it onto the floor. Then he ground it under his heel, snapping the expensive casing. "Clean that up," Marcus whispered. "And consider yourself lucky I don't fire you right now. You have 5 minutes to get that ink off the floor before I call security and tell them you tried to steal from me." Marcus turned and slammed his office door. Elias stood there. He didn't look at the broken pen. He looked at the door. Inside Chima Okani's mind, a ledger was being written. Item 1. Incitement of fraud regarding audits. Item 2. Verbal abuse of staff. Item 3. False reporting to security. Chima knelt down and began to clean the ink. He wasn't angry. He was focused. He realized that it wasn't just Marcus. Marcus had created a culture where the other managers watched this happen and said nothing. They were just as guilty. Suddenly, a hand appeared in his field of vision. It was Amara. She had a pack of wet wipes. "I saw," she whispered, her voice trembling. "He's a monster, Elias. Please don't let him get to you. I'm looking for a new job. You should too. This place, it's not what it used to be. My dad worked for the old Mr. Okani. He said it was a family. Now it's a shark tank." Elias looked at her. "Do you think the CEO knows?" Amara sighed. "Chima Okani? He's in the clouds, Elias. He's looking at spreadsheets and stock prices. He's probably just like Marcus, only with a more expensive watch. Rich people, they forget what it's like to be down here." "Not all of them," Elias said. "Some of them are watching very closely. The tension is building. Chima has seen enough to know that his company is sick, but he doesn't know how deep the fraud goes." In the next segment, the international clients arrive, and Marcus Thorne makes a mistake that will cost him everything. He thinks he's about to become vice president, but he's actually about to face the man he's been spitting on. It was the 3rd week of the experiment, and Chima, as Elias, was beginning to realize that Marcus Thorne wasn't just a bully. He was a parasite. Elias was emptying the high-security shredder bins in the executive wing late at night. Usually these bins were handled by a specialized team, but Silas had been reassigned by Marcus to a different floor, leaving Elias to handle the heavy lifting. Marcus thought he was punishing the janitor. In reality, he was giving the owner of the company the keys to his own destruction. While emptying a bin in Marcus's private office, a stack of documents caught Elias's eye. They hadn't been shredded yet. They were printouts of wire transfers from the Enugu Education Fund, a charity Chima had established in his father's name to build schools in Nigeria. Elias's hands, covered in gray work gloves, began to tremble. Not from fear but from a cold, righteous fury. The documents showed that over the last 6 months, nearly $800,000 had been diverted from the charity into a shell company called MT Strategic Holdings. Marcus Thorne. He wasn't just stepping on the help, he was stealing from orphans. He was spitting on Gabriel Okani's legacy. Elias heard the heavy click of heels in the hallway. He quickly shoved the documents into the pocket of his jumpsuit just as Marcus walked in, accompanied by a woman in a sharp gray suit. It was Cynthia, the head of human resources. "Why is this thing still in my office?" Marcus snapped, pointing at Elias. "I'm just finishing the bins, Mr. Thorne," Elias said, his head bowed. "He's slow, Cynthia," Marcus said, ignoring Elias as if he were a piece of furniture. "This is what I'm talking about. The lower-level staff is incompetent. I need a budget increase for specialized administrative assistants. We need to phase out these manual laborers. They make the office look like a homeless shelter." Cynthia looked at Elias with a flicker of pity, but she didn't speak up. She knew where the power lay. "I'll look into the budget, Marcus. But remember, the board meeting is tomorrow. The Japanese investors from the Tanaka Group will be here. Everything has to be perfect. Chima Okani is rumored to be calling in via video link. If this deal closes, you're the next VP." Marcus grinned. It was a shark's grin. "The deal will close. I've optimized the numbers. By this time tomorrow, I'll be sitting in an office 3 times this size." "And the janitor?" Cynthia asked. Marcus looked at Elias. "Tomorrow is his last day. I want him gone. He looks at me in a way I don't like. Like he thinks he's someone. Give him a week's severance and tell him to find a floor to scrub at the bus station." They walked out. Elias stood in the darkened office, the stolen documents heavy in his pocket. Item 4. Embezzlement from a charitable foundation. Item 5. Orchestrating a mass layoff of essential staff. Chima Okani reached into his jumpsuit and pulled out a burner phone. He sent a single text to Sarah. "Gather the board. Full attendance. No exceptions. And bring the pink folder from the bottom of my safe." The morning of the board meeting was chaotic. The Tanaka Group had arrived. 4 men in dark suits who valued honor and integrity above all else. The boardroom was a masterpiece of glass, with a table made of a single slab of ancient African mahogany. Marcus Thorne was in his element. He was wearing a $4,000 suit, his hair slicked back so tight it looked painted on. He paced the room, barked orders at Amara, and checked his reflection every 30 seconds. "Amara, where is the coffee? If it's not the premium roast, I'll have your head." Amara rushed in, her hands shaking as she set the tray down. Then the door opened. Elias walked in. He didn't have his mop. He was carrying a gray bucket and a cloth. His jumpsuit was stained with what looked like grease. He looked out of place, a smudge on a masterpiece. Marcus turned purple. "What are you doing here? Get out. Now." "Mr. Silas told me the windows needed a final wipe before the guests arrived," Elias said calmly. "I don't care what Silas said. Get out before I throw you out the window myself." Marcus screamed. He looked at the Tanaka Group investors who were watching with raised eyebrows. Marcus tried to recover. "I apologize, gentlemen. Our custodial staff lacks basic awareness. It's hard to find good help these days." "He's a nobody," Marcus screamed, spit flying from his mouth. "He's a man who empties trash cans. He lives in a trailer. You're going to listen to a janitor over me? I have an MBA from Harvard. He has a bucket." Elias looked at the security guards. "Let me go." The guards hesitated. There was something in Elias's voice, a command so absolute that their muscles reacted before their brains did. They stepped back. Elias looked at Marcus. "You're right, Marcus. I do have a bucket. And for 3 weeks I've used it to collect all the filth you've left behind. I've watched you humiliate the receptionist. I've watched you bully Amara. I've watched you treat the people who build this company like they were dirt beneath your shoes. Who do you think you are?" Marcus hissed. Elias reached up to his chest. He slowly unzipped the blue jumpsuit. Underneath, he wasn't wearing a t-shirt. He was wearing a crisp, white high-thread count dress shirt. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a pair of gold cufflinks, the Okani family crest. At that moment, Sarah, the executive assistant, walked into the room. She was carrying a leather folder. She walked straight past Marcus, straight past the investors, and stood beside the janitor. She handed him the folder. "The board is waiting on the video line, sir. All members are present." Elias took the folder. He looked at Marcus, who was now leaning against the mahogany table for support, his face the color of ash. "My name is Chima Okani," Elias said. "And you're in my seat." The silence in the room was absolute. Amara, standing by the coffee tray, covered her mouth with both hands, tears springing to her eyes. Mr. Tanaka bowed deeply. "Mr. Okani, it is an honor. I suspected. The eyes of a lion are hard to hide in the skin of a sheep." Chima didn't bow back yet. He was looking at Marcus. "You can't be," Marcus whispered. "The CO is in New York. He's a giant. He doesn't scrub floors." "My father scrubbed floors for 20 years so I could sit in this chair," Chima said, walking toward the head of the table. "He taught me that you can tell the character of a man by how he treats those who can do nothing for him. You, Marcus, have failed that test every single day." Chima opened the folder. He pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was bright pink. "This is a pink slip, Marcus. In the old days, it was how we told someone they were no longer needed. I had this prepared 3 days ago, but I wanted to give you one last chance. I wanted to see if there was even a shred of humanity left in you." Chima looked at the Japanese investors. "Gentlemen, there will be no deal today with Mr. Thorne. However, if you are willing to stay, I would like to show you the real Okani Global. The one built on the backs of the hard-working people this man tried to erase." He turned back to Marcus. "You are terminated, effective immediately. Not just for your behavior but for the theft of $800,000 from the Enugu Fund. Security isn't here to take me out, Marcus. They're here to escort you to the lobby, where the Atlanta Police Department is waiting for you." The guards stepped forward again. This time they didn't hesitate. They grabbed Marcus by the arms. "You can't do this." Marcus screamed, his mask completely shattered. "I made you millions. You need me." "I need a janitor more than I need a thief," Chima said coldly. "At least the janitor leaves the room cleaner than he found it. You only leave a trail of slime." As Marcus was dragged out, screaming and kicking, his shoes scuffing the very marble he was so proud of, Chima turned to the room. He looked at Amara. "Amara," he said gently. "Yes, sir?" "Mr. Okani," she stuttered. "I read your report on the logistics overhead. It was brilliant. You were right. We were overspending on external contractors because we weren't trusting our own people. How would you like to be the interim regional manager? It comes with a private office, a 400% raise, and the authority to hire back every single person Marcus Thorne fired in the last 6 months." Amara broke down. She didn't just cry, she sobbed with relief. "Thank you. Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me," Chima said. "Thank yourself for staying kind in a place that tried to make you cold." The story of the janitor CEO went viral within hours. Someone had recorded Marcus being led away in handcuffs, and someone else had captured the moment Chima revealed himself. But Chima didn't care about fame. The next morning, the white marble lobby was back to its usual hustle and bustle. But the energy had changed. People were looking at each other. They were nodding to the security guards. They were saying good morning to the cleaning crew. Chima Okani stood in the lobby, wearing a simple, well-tailored suit. He wasn't in the penthouse. He was standing by the buckets. Silas, the old head of the cleaning crew, approached him. He looked at Chima, then at the floor, then back at Chima. He started to bow, but Chima caught his shoulders. "Don't do that, Silas," Chima said. "I didn't know, sir. I called you kid. I told you you were at the bottom of the food chain," Silas said, his voice thick with embarrassment. "You taught me more in 3 weeks than I learned in 4 years of business school, Silas. You taught me that the foundation is the most important part of the building. And you kept the foundation clean." Chima reached into his pocket and handed Silas an envelope. "What's this?" "Another pink slip." Silas joked nervously. "It's a retirement package," Chima said. "And a deed to a small house in Enugu, right next to the new school we're building. My father would have wanted his best friend to have a place to rest." As Silas walked away, wiping his eyes with a rough, leather-like hand, Chima looked up at the 60 stories of his empire. He realized that the Elias jumpsuit was still in his locker upstairs. He decided he would never throw it away. He would keep it in his office, right behind his desk, as a reminder. Because the moment you think you are too big to scrub a floor is the moment you become too small to lead a people. Marcus Thorne thought he was a king because he had a title and a suit. He forgot that a crown doesn't make a king, the heart does. He ended up in a cell while the man he bullied ended up changing thousands of lives. Remember this. Your position in life is temporary, but your character is permanent. Treat the janitor with the same respect as the CEO, because you never know when they might be the same person. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs a reminder to stay humble. Turn on notifications so you never miss a lesson in modern folklore. Because every tale has a lesson, and the world never forgets the man who chose kindness over power. See you in the next story.